Welcome back, folks. I'm Frizz, and today, as you can probably tell, things are a little bit different here. So welcome. I have hardly any idea of what I'm actually doing here, and today I would like to talk about the 3 action economy system in Pathfinder 2e and why it's so much better than the action economy system from Pathfinder 1e and D&D 5e. And pretty much most TTRPGs, because most TTRPGs base their action system off of either, well, it's mostly just D&D. But regardless, let's just jump right into it. So what even is the 3 action economy system? I've mentioned it a lot in a variety of my videos, but today is the first time I'm actually dedicating a large amount of time into talking about it. Well, simply put, in Pathfinder 1e and D&D 5e, every single character, whenever it comes to be their turn in combat, they get 1 standard action, 1 move action, and then either a swift or a bonus action depending on what system you're playing. And, well, the 3 action economy is a little bit simpler. Whenever any character in combat gets to be their turn, they get 3 actions. And all of their actions are built equally and can be used in the exact same ways. So, obviously, that is very simple and incredibly straightforward. And really, that simplicity is amazing and is really, in my mind, the highlight of the entire system. But don't let that simplicity fool you into thinking that there is not any complexity. But before we get into that, I would like to talk a little bit more about that simplicity. See, when was the last time that you tried to teach a new player how to play D&D 5e or Pathfinder 1e? Because in my experience, I've done this a couple of times, but generally one of the harder parts is explaining exactly how combat flows. Okay, it's your turn, you have 1 standard action to use, you have 1 move action, you can only move once, and you have to do all your movement at once in Pathfinder 1e, and it can just be a little bit of a pain to actually explain all of that at the same time. Where Pathfinder 2e really shines is that it's so much easier to actually explain all of that to a new player, because you have 3 actions. It's incredibly straightforward. You just spend actions as you want. Oh, you want to move somewhere? Yeah, that's an action. You stride. You can stride up to your speed. Want to attack something? Okay, you make a strike. You want to cast a spell? Well, that's almost certainly going to be 2 actions. Super easy, super straightforward, super easy for basically anyone to learn. Now that I've talked a bit about the simplicity of Pathfinder 2e's 3 action system and why that's a good thing, now let's talk a little bit about why actually having 3 actions is good, outside of it just being simple and easy to learn. And simply put, it's incredibly flexible, and it also answers some questions that I've always had about the worlds that TTRPGs take place in. So, being flexible allows for you to create incredibly mobile plans and allows for people to move around in combats a lot more, which in general just makes for more interesting combats. But the real selling point to me is just how it just makes a bit more sense for combats to be structured around 3 actions. For instance, have you ever wondered why it is that a first level character can only attack once in a turn? Like, they should just be able to, swing around and maybe have that be functional. But there's literally no way to do it in Pathfinder 1e. Pathfinder 2e answers that question by saying, yeah, you can just spend all 3 actions making strikes. Now, you'll be accruing a penalty, and your subsequent attacks are going to be less effective, but you still can do it, and all those penalties will be reduced as you level up. A level 1 character can attack 3 times in a turn. In barring unique abilities or particular classes, a level 20 character can attack 3 times in 1 turn. The difference is how useful those attacks are going to be. And, okay, I just want to take a little bit of time here to talk about why this is actually, I feel like the 3 action economy is especially good at high level. Because at high level in Pathfinder 1e, you can easily build a monk that makes 7 attacks a round every single round of every single combat in the day. And that is a lot of fun. I personally haven't done it, but making that many attacks is genuinely super fun and makes you feel incredibly strong. But it's gonna take a lot of time at the table, especially if you're playing in person and not playing online. See? That's a lot of math to do. Okay, so you roll a d20, then add a modifier to it, see if it hits. Okay, it hits. Okay, now you have to roll damage. And shockingly, addition is not the most invigorating gameplay element. And that's going to take a lot of time. But simply having 3 actions, no matter what level you're at, is going to make high-level play a lot more consistent with low-level play, which is a good thing because high-level play in 1E was a absolute mess, where one combat could take an entire session just because people are doing a lot of math, and that isn't necessarily the most fun thing. So the 3-action system really simplifies things by making sure that everyone has about the same amount of actions to use no matter what level they're playing at. The 3-action system also has some interesting implications across the other parts of the system and how particular abilities and spells are designed. Some spells and some abilities can allow you to use a variable amount of actions to get different effects, which makes sense. Someone winding up for a huge punch, that will really, change the way that that punch is going to work, which is exactly the 1-inch punch monk feat. There are other feats like this, but I feel like the best example of a variable action spell or ability is Magic Missile. Because Magic Missile, you can spend 1 to 3 actions on it, and then you send 1 missile at someone per action that you spend. So it's a super easy way of knowing, oh, well, that person is clearly on 1 health. I'm going to spend 1 action to send a missile their way. Any more would just be a waste of my actions. And it creates this really fun dynamic of figuring out how many actions you need to spend at a given time. Another part of the system that is affected a bit, and in a good way in my mind, is conditions, because the quickened and slowed conditions are incredibly powerful, but not in a way that breaks the game or slows down the game at all. See, quickened gives you 1 additional action every turn, or generally 1 action. You can get more, but that's incredibly rare. So you get 1 action, but you have to use this action for 1 particular type of action. So for example, the haste spell gives you an additional action every turn, but you can only use it for movement or for making a basic strike. This makes haste still an incredibly good spell because it allows for a ton of more mobility and more attacks, but it's not game breaking. It's not the must-need buff spell that it was in first edition. Additionally, slowed is a bit more obviously an offensive condition, but it reduces the amount of actions that you have, which makes slow an incredibly strong condition to apply, especially when you're fighting a single monster. And having these be, powerful effects, but not be, everywhere all of the time, makes them feel really impactful, and it just interfaces incredibly well with the action economy system. Now, overall, I feel like it's clear that I like the I really, really, really like the 3-action system in Pathfinder 2e. I've said it in a ton of my videos, and honestly, I think you're going to be very hard-pressed to find someone on the internet who doesn't think that it's been well executed. But there is one gripe that I feel is incredibly justified that a lot of people have, which is that spellcasters disproportionately get less out of the 3-action system than marshals. See, marshals are often going to be moving up, okay, I'll strike once, and then, maybe I'll take a step away from them or demoralize. Basically, marshals are very flexible in how they spend their actions, while spellcasters are generally speaking going to use 1 action to move, and then 2 actions to cast a spell, because almost all spells are 2 actions. So that is pretty much the exact same sort of action structure that spellcasters had in Pathfinder 1e and D&D 5e, where they cast a spell and they move every turn. And that's boring, and they just don't get to interface with one of the best parts of the entire system, hands down. So that's really one of the big reasons why I think that there needs to be more 1-action spells and spells that use a variable amount of actions, because it would allow for spellcasters to interface with a very, very fun part of the system. Regardless, though, it is a true masterstroke of game design, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's ever a D&D 6e if it uses the same system, because it's really that good.
Thank you for watching. This has been quite the experience to make, and I really apologize for any issues that may have popped up. My setup for doing this and recording this is janky as all hell, and I have no clue what it is that I'm doing. Also, the audio quality is going to be worse because my microphone that I have been using for my videos is mounted on a stand, which doesn't work quite as well for moving around my room because there's also a lot of background noise in my room that I just can't do anything about. So I'm using an old headset mic, so it's not going to be quite as good, but I like trying new things, and I feel like this channel is a good opportunity for me to just mess around with tools that I have at my disposal and see if I can make anything good. I just want to try new stuff with my content, and I thought that this might work well. We'll see. What do you guys think about the whole VR stuff that I've been doing now, though? I honestly don't know what to think. Regardless of that, though, until we see you next, live a wonderful life.